everybody, and welcome to DTC Blow and Smoke Podcast. We are joined today by Matt from the Cigar Social Podcast. Matt, how are you doing over there, bud?
Pretty good. Yourself?
Oh, I'm doing fucking phenomenal, man. Look at that smile. God, look at that handsome fella. Matt is joining us today from outside of Chicago. Matt, why don't you go ahead and introduce everything, man?
Yeah, so I'm 30 minutes outside of Chicago. I'm from the Cigar Social Podcast. We usually go through and have guests on my show and go through what we're smoking and what we're drinking. I'm happy to be joined by you guys. I mean, you are probably one of the most unique cigar companies on the planet, from my point of view. I mean, you're the makers of a few famous cigars. I'm sure people that are listening may have seen, had, or heard of, like Leather Rose, Crazy Alice, Fat Bottom, Sweet Jane, and now the highly anticipated Chasing the Dragon. This is what I have today, actually. I have the Chasing the Dragon Midnight Oil, and so far, it's phenomenal. Right off the jump.
Good deal, man. Good deal. Good. Let me kind of ask, like, what, like, in the first place, like, what were you thinking? Like, hey, I'm going to reach out to DTC, see if we can do a collaboration. Like, what was your mindset on that? I mean, I've seen a couple episodes where you had some owners of cigar companies, things like that. But what was your thought process going? Hey, these jerk guys from DTC. I almost said jerk offs. Yeah. I should have just said it. Jerk offs from DTC. Yeah. But I want to see if they'll be able to collaborate and I can pick their brain. What was going on there?
Well, it was one of those things, looking at some of the cigars that I've seen. I didn't even know about Chasing the Dragon until I started talking to you guys prior to the show and reading up on your location and the history behind that location, and just a real interesting company, group of guys, and culture. I mean, you guys base your company culture, based off of, I believe you're all vets, right?
About half and half.
Yeah. Half and half.
Yep.
But yeah, it's just something I wanted to kind of pick your brains. I got some questions that pop off later, but yeah, it's just real nice to kind of coming together and chatting with y'all.
Yeah. Now you did a pairing with the Dragon, and you chose Japanese whiskey of some sort. Why don't you tell us about what's going on there? What the stick is, what the whiskey is, all your good usual rantings.
So yeah. So today I read up on the Dragon. Had this in my bar, and after comparing the two descriptions, and I know there's two different types of pairings. You could do more of a contrast pairing where you do something from each side of the spectrum, a super bold cigar and like a light Pilsner, or you do like a comparable pairing where they're kind of both meet in the middle, or they're both bold, or they're both light. Not only are these two kind of both in that spectrum of like a medium to mild, but the flavor profiles in both descriptions were almost identical.
Oh, nice.
So I couldn't wait to light it up, take a couple sips, and kind of pair the two. And like I said, so far, it's phenomenal. So this is the Habiki Japanese Harmony Whiskey. It's from the Suntory distillery in Japan. It was released in 2015. It's 86 proof. MSRP is about $80. It got a 96 points at the 2020 Ultimate Spirits Challenge. Highly rated Japanese whiskey. And I don't usually dabble into the Japanese whiskey, but my boss actually swung by for a fire pit and cigar one night and brought it. And
well, you can't say no to free whiskey.
No, it's phenomenal. Habiki means harmony, and that's exactly what this whiskey is. It's a harmony of at least 5 premium whiskeys, styles, various ages, different methods, and while 4 of them are single grain malts, the 5th is a grain from the Chita Peninsula in central Japan. And so it's just a real interesting blend, real interesting distilling process. You can see it's a gold, slight amber color. Mm-hmm. So then on the nose, this is what kind of caught my attention. On the nose, you have aromatics, floral, hints of apricot.
Nice.
On the palate,
nice.
you get medium-bodied whiskey that kind of opens up to dried fruit, and again, apricot kind of appears.
Excellent.
And then after reading the Chasing the Dragon description and this, both kind of go hand in hand with the aromatic teas, the apricots, and the dried fruit flavor profiles. So it's a perfect little marriage of the two.
Right on. Did you start, just an odd question for you, but did you start drinking the whiskey first before you lit the cigar? Or did you light the cigar before you started drinking the whiskey?
I actually sipped the whiskey a little bit before I lit the cigar.
Gotcha. And then after you take a sip, can you taste a little bit of a difference in the cigar? Is there any like notes that are popping out that hadn't before?
It's that dried fruit, that and that apricot.
Okay.
It's a slam dunk. It's a very predominant in both. No matter if you smoke and sip and smoke, whatever the combination is, you get that really interesting dried fruit flavor on the finish.
Excellent.
Nice.
Right on. So you said Habiki? Am I saying it right?
Habiki,
Okay.
I think so.
Yeah. I mean, who's going to correct me if I'm not fucking saying it right? It doesn't matter.
Yeah, fuck them.
Oh, shit.
Pearl Harbor, remember that. Nah. Yes.
They owed us that whiskey.
Yes, they did.
It's a blend of how many different ones? I'm sorry. I just go geek out for a second here.
So it's five different blends of five,
Okay.
and then
Nice.
with one Japanese grain. So everything's 4 single malts,
Gotcha.
and then the 5th is a Japanese grain. Yeah.
Nice.
So when you were like creating this podcast, what was your thought process? Like, me and the boys like to smoke cigars, so we should jump online and share our message with the world. A lot of people don't do video right now just because the medium's a little bit harder. I noticed that you do video, all this other good stuff. Like, what brought you into the podcast world, especially in cigars and drinks?
So I mean, that's exactly it. I had a friend of mine, and he started it with me. We would go outside in the garage and smoke a cigar, and while the girls were inside doing
girl things.
their stuff, and
Whips
so
and
we were
chains?
just kind of like,
Okay.
we smoke cigars. We're not experts by any means. We're far from experts, and so we just wanted to kind of dabble into the world. I mean, I heard Worst podcast, and there was we started reaching out to companies,
Yes.
and
Us. Yeah.
people started reaching back. And so we were able to get some cigar companies, some whiskey companies, some breweries. A lot of them that I've had on so far are from this area, but I have been able to kind of make contact. My last episode was with Chattanooga Whiskey, and Tim down there was just awesome to hop on a video call.
That's awesome.
And I'm still trying to get my smoke shed studio video system up and nailed down, but everything that's remote is now video, and that's what I'll put on YouTube. But
Yeah.
I'm mostly audio based for now.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
The one of the ones that I had seen was you and a couple of different fellows. How long have you been in the smoking world, man? How did you start smoking cigars right out of high school? What's the whole beginning story?
I smoke cigars on special occasions growing up, every so often. Didn't really know anything about it, and
like
then
5th birthday and shit like that. Yeah. Okay.
First communion, things like that.
Yeah. Baptism. Nothing big.
And then I kind of really got into it in the past couple of years, to probably 2 or 3 years. Started really getting interested in the blends, the companies, the factories, the regions, all those different things. And so it's been really nice to kind of not only read up on it, dabble into it for a couple of years, but now talk to companies. And I had Terrence Riley here from Aganorsa, and we did a whole little smoking experience thing where I smoked a certain leaf and then smoked a different leaf, and that whole blending process was something new to me. So it was just really cool to kind of now take what I know and talk to people who really know and expand my knowledge on it.
Excellent. All right. So from host to host, why don't you take over for a second, show us your hosting shtick, and let the questions fly if you want, man.
Well, I mean, we've already gone through the intro, and so again, thank you for having me on your show. The first thing that I would like to know, honestly, is let's start from the start. And where did Deadwood Tobacco Company start? How did that even come about?
We'll let Wild Bill, the current owner, take this one.
Yes.
It started with Vaughn Boyd and John Boyd. They rode down from Cali. Vaughn was an entrepreneur her whole life. She owned businesses since she was 25. And they rode down to the rally one year and realized there was no real shop in Deadwood, so she sold her shop up there in Paso Robles to John's kids. They rode down. They started July 4th, 2006, DTC. And then things started to develop in the store, not just what they were doing, but their culture was also being established at that point with a few reps like myself and Fabian Ziegler, which I'm assuming one of the next questions coming up on that list is going to be one of the cigars that was created. How did it get created, and how did that flourish? And I'm assuming one of them questions is going to be about the Sweet Jane line. Right?
Cricket.
On my list, I did want to talk a little bit about the Yummy Bitches.
Yeah.
I found it amazing and hilarious, and correct me if I'm wrong or if I'm off by a little bit, but I found these descriptions of all...
You're wrong. I read them.
Sweet Jane was born in the brothels of Deadwood. She's naughty, and she's got her reputation for breaking hearts and bringing strong men to their knees.
Well,
okay, that can be part of her.
We can roll with
girl
that.
next door attitude. Yes.
Fat Bottom Betty came out of rehab in 2013 to spread some large ass lovin' with her sister Sweet Jane.
Wow.
Hey man, I don't know about that one at all.
We can go with that though.
but from a historical standpoint, I will tell you where I was at and things on how that all this got created. Keep going. What's the next one?
And then Crazy Alice showed up in 2014, and God knows where that little firecracker has been. She is one pistol cracking little hussy.
Where'd you find these things at?
Google's amazing.
Yeah, I got it. I'll share you I'll share the link. But yeah, those are descriptions, and when I read those, I immediately was like, I got to learn more about these three.
Well, I mean, some of that is interesting to hear. Some of it is factual. It happened. The conversation was between really two people back 2008-ish, right around there at Vaughn Boyd's house between Fabian Ziegler and herself at the kitchen counter. After the rally that year, Fabian was at the kitchen. He's like, you need to have a sweet cigar. And they came up with the concept, and that concept was Sweet Jane and Smoking Jane. Now, the reason why I know this is because I was at that rally. I've been at every rally since 2007. So long story short, they developed two different cigars, Sweet Jane, Smoking Jane. Sweet Jane had the sweet cap, Smoking Jane didn't. It took 4 years for Smoking Jane to disappear and never come back out. She died on the streets of Deadwood. Now, as far as the three lines, Sweet Jane, Fat Bottom Betty, Crazy Alice go, I was always under the understanding that they were born in a brothel. No one knew where the mother went. Where the store is currently located was a brothel back in the day known as the Mansion. The description you gave about the three sisters is a unique spin because when it was fleshed out when I was the rep there doing all these events for Vaughn Boyd and with Fabian Ziegler at 4 of the major ones, it was expressed that Sweet Jane's the girl next door. Fat Bottom Betty was the girl you forgot about. She became sultry and seductive, and her mouth was a little bit thicker and sweeter than her sister's, who was the girl next door. That was Sweet Jane, the older sister.
Boom.
Then Crazy Alice, she was the youngest, right? So she was the girl that you would, let's just say, enjoy, but you should have went to the medicine cabinet and checked things out.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Because she's a little nuts.
She was a hot burn really quick.
And then it was, I forget the dates, but it was a couple years ago is when the storyline about Leather Rose was they found her and they were bringing her back for a rally to introduce her to her kids.
2020.
The leather rose was, that's what I wanted to get to, was leather rose is the mother of the four and the fourth yummy bitch per se. That they found her and brought her back to rally.
Yep.
Yes.
And
I couldn't find any backstory on Leather Rose.
yeah, that's the quick backstory. Is they found her out and about. She dumped the kids off in the brothel and bolted and never was seen again. And they brought her back. Now she's slightly different of a blend than the other three. She has a little bit extra leaf in there, which adds a little bit of spice, which picks up the cocoa and coffee notes in the other three blends. So that particular product, though, so we set the record straight, is owned by Vaughn Boyd. She owns the trademarks to Sweet Jane, Fat Bottom Betty, Crazy Alice, Leather Rose. Drew Estate makes the cigar for her, and then Deadwood Tobacco, the only thing they receive is the name on the box and the band. That's it. No royalties, no cash, no nothing. So that's the partnership between those three businesses. The one that Vaughn Boyd herself, since she's retired from Deadwood Tobacco, and Drew Estate, who makes the cigar and holds a licensing agreement with Vaughn Boyd and Deadwood Tobacco. And then the new one, which you led into, which is what you're smoking, which is the newest project by us. That project...
Hold on.
Oh,
he's cracking a beer.
soundbite.
Oh, there we go.
There we
You
go.
need to refresh your palate.
Yes.
Stop and drink New Belgium Brewing Company's finest IPA. You can get it at your local Illinois shopping, biddies.com. Thank you for shopping.
Wisconsin. You can't get it anywhere else.
Right. So
Anyway.
Wisconsin.
that I will say is the quick, down and dirty nutshell of the Sweet Jane product line and how it got developed, where it got developed. And if you wanted to know more, you could probably reach out to Fabian Ziegler. He's got his own podcast, too, and he's making his own cigar. New concept out there. You can find him on Instagram, and he can flesh that out more for you. He used to work at Drew Estate, and go from there. Maybe Vaughn Boyd will pop up on there for you, too.
Nice.
But, yeah, you got any other things about that? It sells.
I think that's all. I have all about that kind of sums it up for the yummy bitches. I wanted to kind of segue into the Chasing the Dragon. One of the reasons is I wanted to know, you did this project, and did you collaborate with, like, for example, where are these rolled?
All right. The collaboration. Let's change that word, shouldn't we? Because it wasn't a collaboration at all.
No.
This project is a fruitful one.
I fucking see what you did there.
Jesus.
It you know,
I like that.
I've got a lot of years on the manufacturing side between Drew Estate and Ashton Cigars, and this team I got here at DTC, we don't stop thinking. So with all that, we created something, and what we needed to create was an avenue of cash to a platform. And in business, you have to get real creative to create things that are going to generate the type of cash that you need for said things. Things such as, I don't know, healthcare.
Healthcare.
So the Dragon and the team at DTC created it from the box, the band, everything about it. The design, the dream, the tasting, the stories.
Trust me, the tasting was not fun.
The fucking rolling.
The
Rebanding.
the February
The
banding
rebanding,
of product. But I had the opportunity through relationships in this industry, right? So a few people saw some, and they opened the doors to me. And that would be one of the people who helped me with fleshing things out would be Miguel Shodell from Crown Heads, as well as Tom Lazuka from CLE Asylum, and Michelle, who works there as well. And they introduced me to Christian, who I did not know after 18 years in the industry. And it was a funny story with Ethan at a trade show up in Vegas. At the last minute, it was May 14th. I'll never forget that day.
As a tear rolls down his face.
So we got instructions, right, to fly back home to here, South Dakota, pick up passports to get to Miami, get our nose tickled. And then we're going to fly to Honduras. And then when we got to Honduras, Christian was like, hey, this is Tyler, this is Raul. No, we met him right as we got on the plane in Miami. This is Tyler, this is Raul. He's the head of production. He's the head of marketing. When we land, this is what we're going to do. But I don't know how to do this, so good luck. You got to figure it out.
Yeah,
And
pretty much.
Yep.
the next morning
Wow.
was a Monday morning. That was another great day in DTC history. You were in a meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm always in a
I know. And so Tyler and I, they gave me a closet, dude. And I mean, you step in, it was big enough for a table and some rubber gloves and some foam cups and needles and this black liquid. And Ethan was off at the box factory creating the box. We had the beginning of the logo. So we created the cigar in 5 days. We had the ability to call and ask information to people out of Mexico where we got the food grade edible flavoring notes. And they helped us out with the formula. And we got the Dragon. And we've been on the project for about a year and a half. It's going to go national here in January. Their team at CLE is pretty excited about it. They're getting a lot of feedback on it since we've got it out there with Pierce doing wholesaling and Ethan pumping it on social media. And now you're smoking it.
I feel like you shouldn't skip over the part where we had to smoke X amount of horrible fucking cigars.
So the first samples, just to give you an example, the first samples they sent back were like, oh, try these. And we're all sitting around a table at work.
Right after a breakfast meeting.
Yeah, after a breakfast meeting. It's like, here, try these. And they're not labeled. They're not banded. So we don't know what's what.
No, it's just like D12-8C.
Yeah, it was
Oh,
these
that
weird.
sounds delicious.
Yeah. So we'd sit there and try them. And I'm like, what's that taste like? I'm like, fucking pancake syrup. It's So we end up, you got to go through this trial and error to get the right mix, the right blend, the right everything that's just perfect to make it where the flavor stays all the way through the end. It doesn't burn out halfway through. It doesn't do this. It doesn't do that. It doesn't, go stupid on you, or what I call stupid, which could be anything. Operator error / anything else. But, yeah, and it was just like, oh, my God, we're going to die.
And
Yeah.
we didn't
was
want
bad.
it. DTC already is known for a very sweet cigar,
Yes.
which you know about. We talked about it. And we knew we had to dial the sweetness down to make it different.
Right.
And we didn't go coffee and chocolate because that's already been done.
Right.
So we went fruits.
Yep.
And there it was simple for us because at the end of a meal, right, how many people, adults in the drinking age for a libation, go to something thick and viscous? A cognac, something sweet, right? Here it is.
Yep.
It has the fruit notes. It's got a little sweetness, but you get the rawness of the Corojo tobacco, which is what CLE Asylum's known for, the Aurora family.
Yep.
Well, and it's nice to have a adult flavored cigar is what I like to call it.
Yeah.
Like when you're ushering somebody through the humidor, you don't dress it up as something that it's not. But hey, have you ever had a Brandy Alexander, which nobody fucking knows anymore? Hey, have you had a Brandy Manhattan? Making a flavored cigar for adults that is an adult beverage flavored cigar just seemed like a perfect pairing for the space that we inhabit in Deadwood.
Not only that, but the history and the culture of the Chinese since
Yeah.
Deadwood's been around. We're the second biggest Chinese culture, so it only made sense to pull from that. And when you look at all three, we had a customer. We weren't smart enough here to figure this one out at DTC. A customer, after we got it out there and put it on the website, sent us an email, and it said, hey, you guys are brilliant. I think that's amazing that you called the Deadwood Tobacco Company Chasing the Dragon DTC CTD.
Yep.
Yeah.
And, bro, we didn't think of that.
Happy accident.
No.
That's the universe.
And then the actual names of the cigars are all street names that they would have called that back in the day, 1890s, of what the opium would have been. So if you're walking around town in 1890 Deadwood and you're like, hey man, get some midnight oil, that's what you would have been asking for, is the midnight oil, the Auntie, the Zero.
The Emma.
I was going to ask that because to me, like I was trying to come to that theme of, okay, midnight oil, Auntie, Zero. Those are three. How do you link those? But, okay, that
street names for opium.
Yep, it's all street names for opium. So when the Chinese came here, they were, part of them came from the railroad, part of them came to what we call mine the miners. So you had the miners that came out, and then you had the people that would live off the miners, basically the hardware stores, the grocery stores, all these people selling, like Seth Bullock and Saul Starr opened a hardware store, and they sold everything from pans to everything else you needed to go out and sift for gold. The Chinese came, they did the laundry, they did a lot of the cooking, and part of the Chinese thing was when they were very super smart because they knew where to make a buck. They would literally wash the miners' clothes but not drain the water out. So they'd wash all their clothes, and then when they were done with so many sets, they'd drain the water out, but then they were sifting it looking for gold dust that got stuck on the miners' clothes. So, I mean, they were very intuitive, very smart. So it was a big difference in, you know, what they did versus the poor miners, the poor bastards that were out there sifting away. And I do gold panning, and it's not something that's easy. It is super rough on your body, rough on your back, and everything else. So, you know, they literally,
all for a nickel.
Yeah, all for that nickel. And,
all for that dust, man.
Yep. And what they did was they'd say in that wash water, and they'd strain it out, and they'd actually physically pull the gold dust that was stuck to the miners' clothes that they didn't get off. So they were smart people. They were not dumb by any means. And there was a huge group of them that were in here, and families of them that are actually, which is rare, are actually buried up at Mount Moriah. Now, most of the time when a Chinese person dies, they get shipped back to their hometown because that way they can find their way to whatever thing they... Heaven or whatever they're after. But there's a lot of them physically buried here because they didn't know who the family was, so they never sent them back. So, and this is sort of an homage to them. It's a, you know... Chinese were always looked down upon because they were sort of like, you know, I don't want to go back into the deal, but like slaves. You know, you never heard too many slaves that got mentioned as something popular. Well, this is our homage to them because they were a big part of Deadwood's community and the opium dens and all the tunnels and everything else. Like I said, they were here to mine the miners, so they were here to take their money when they made a little bit of buck and came into town.
Yeah, and then
no different than the brothels and the whiskey houses.
It's no different than Al Swearingen and his brothels with his stuff he was running and everybody else in town. They all were
Commerce.
here to, capitalism.
No, and they were also sending money back to their families in China to help them out, and then recruit them to come over here and help them. So
you know, this synergy here between him and us with his Oriental drinking Oriental cigars.
Yes,
yeah, it is kind of neat.
Yeah.
Especially since I've been to Japan
once or twice.
At least a good 18 months.
Yeah.
What was that, Matt?
I said the drink and the smoke are thematically close.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Do you have a little bit of a emoji, like a Chinese emoji on your arm or anything that you can really pull it all together?
I do. Well, I have the koi fish.
Oh, there you go. See, there you go, man.
See?
You got that just for this podcast too, didn't you? That's the rumor.
I got 3 days ago.
Fucking A, man. You are just on it. Right. That is awesome. So when you guys get together, what is it? Always the research that does the pairing with the whiskey and the cigar? What kind of goes into that process? What goes into that process when you're pairing all that together for a podcast?
It used to be the first couple episodes, probably the first 10 or so episodes, was just completely random. It was, somebody will bring a cigar, somebody will bring a whiskey or a scotch or something, and if the pairing sucks, we're stuck with it.
Ooh.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's worse things.
But it was
Yeah.
but it was a way to kind of try different cigars that we've never had before, whiskeys or beverages that we haven't had before, spirits. And we found some pretty good pairs, and then we had a couple that just weren't right.
Gotcha.
Right there.
Gotcha. Do you have any questions like for the round table, or I'm trying to remember the list right now. We have all of our computers taken up by trying to piece this thing together, so I don't have the list that you sent through the email. But there was something about just getting to know like us, or is there any questions that you have for the individuals?
Yeah, well, I mean, we could just go around real quick. I don't think anybody that listens to my podcast knows who Wild Bill is, who Handsome Pierce is, and who Stash is. Mm-hmm. So if you want to kind of just go around and introduce yourselves and what part do you play in the whole Deadwood operation?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Bill, you want to take this one off, or start this one off? Take this one off.
Take it.
You can take it off too
Jerk
if you
it
want
off.
to.
Jerk
Yeah.
it off.
Well,
Jerk it off. Whatever.
Sure. There's a few people though that aren't here, which I'll start with first though.
Right.
Yeah.
Grimy Grimes works there, and he handles the beer and the shirts. And then you got Consuela. She does all our super fast shipping every day. That we get a lot of feedback that everybody loves.
www.deadwoodtobacco.com.
Which is Stash's bride.
Yes.
Me, I'm Wild Bill. I think about things and then I ask the team to implement them. That's my job. Pay the bills, write the check, and find health care and move the store
Well, and a hell of
and develop a national brand.
yeah, and a hell of a big idea guy. Like when we're doing all of our shit at the DTC, all of us have been there. What, Grimes is almost a year, correct? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Grimes is almost a year. Everybody else, I'm almost 2 years. Stash, how long have you been?
Going on 4 now, I think.
4,
somewhere in there.
Ethan was born there, I'm pretty sure.
Preacher.
Yeah.
Yeah. Preacher was born there.
So, Preacher, you want to go off? Give him a little bit of background on you?
Sure. I started with Vaughn Boyd 7.5 years ago. Something like that.
Bam.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Wow.
And so, I mean, perspective is saying something, right? I mean, when you've seen what she could do in building a brand, the Yummy Bitches, she did a lot. Then seeing it all change over with Wild Bill coming on and his implementation of the rest of it.
The rest of it. Yeah.
We all stared back at him, and that's what he came up with.
Yeah. Good job.
Departments gave me the ability to branch out and do some photography, social media, digital graphics, the marketing aspect, stuff like that. So it's been a ride, man. It's been a ride.
Wow.
So,
Can somebody touch on the shop, where you're located, how big it is? And,
It's a massive square footage location. There's a lot of airspace. It travels really well. The ventilation you can hit your head on.
yes.
It's only 1,800 square feet.
So think of a speakeasy from
Yeah.
back in the 20s, right? When they killed alcohol. But everybody in Chicago, especially Chicago, which you're in that area, they went down, they were all smoking cigarettes, cigars, and they were in these little, bathtub gin bullshit going on. It's sort of what we're operating out of right now. It's not.
We're in the basement. We
Yeah.
got the used to be street level. We got the old jail. In the front of the store is where you'd get a haircut, walk to the back, do a Turkish bath, and walk upstairs and squeak the bed a little bit.
Yep.
So that's physical.
It's a small square footage, and when you get about 20 people in there lighting a cigar, it gets pretty cloudy.
Yep.
And
we play the blues.
Yep. I'm 6'6", and the cloud of smoke goes to about my nipples. So that's where the smoke lies in there.
And there's no upper zone where the cloud stops. It just keeps going.
no,
just
it
there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so leading into that, first, Stash, introduce yourself. What do you do, or what's your background?
Stash, I
I grow mustaches.
Yeah, that's
I grow mustaches for a living.
Mustaches, that's how
Let me
I
twist
do.
it for you.
I give it to cancer kids so they can have mustache too.
It's for their leg hair
Besides
or
the-
armpit hair.
Besides the point, I can't grow a full beard, so hence why I have a long stash. I was retired out of the military, rolled out here, and basically,
Had a cover letter and a resume.
yeah, that's how it started. I had a cover letter and a resume because I followed instructions as per the employer. As I was sitting in there waiting for my wife to get off from another job she was working at, I'd go down there and usually have a cigar and a couple beers and roll out. And they're like, well, we're sort of looking for help. And I'm like, okay, what do you need? Cover letter, resume. All right, come back with cover letter, resume, which after 22 years in the military, the resume was not that hard. pretty easy, really. There wasn't too much to put on it, so
The cover letter was longer than the resume.
yeah, and
Just as.
right, and rolled in and managed to pick up the job. It was a little rough in the beginning because our systems were antiquated. Let's put it that way.
Big time.
So, you know, the old
Flip the book, find the
flip
cigar,
the book,
hope the
find
price is
cigar,
right.
hope the price is somewhere in the ballpark. Type it into the sharp register, hit tax, and enter. You know, it was so,
Pretty rudimentary.
yes, and then credit cards was like a, you know, come back in 4 days, we'll have your shit to sign. But
AOL dial-up.
yeah. So went through that, went through the whole transition into the newer systems and the newer website that we have, and then my wife freed herself up where she turned up into being Consuela and ended up being the shipping biatch, as we like to call her.
Oh,
So,
yes.
yes.
Yeah.
So she shifted over to the shipping side. She does part-time. I only do part-time myself, but
But you're kind of the ordering guy.
yeah, I order all the off-ball stuff that we need and other things that aren't related. Well, some are related to cigars, but pipe tobaccos, everything else I sort of take care of on the weekends. And I'm there during the day, so I don't have to deal with the drunk bastards at night because...
Because he's drunk.
Yeah, because I'm usually drunk. Because I'm
kidding.
Well, not necessarily.
Yeah, I mean,
They're
there's-
in the
there's
ballpark.
days.
Yeah,
There's days.
There's certain days. So, but yeah, so I
Now,
work about
Consuela, on
2.5
the other
days.
hand, no more chocolate bombs.
No, I'm glad we're out of those
Fucking
things.
buzzballs.
We got more.
Jesus Christ. Jesus, really?
We're getting all the flavors.
Don't
Good
let
God.
her. Don't let her know.
No, man.
She'd
You
have
turn
to
it into a
do
shit show real quick.
Yeah, that one Friday here, not too long ago, she stayed and had like
You
four
can,
of them.
you can tell by her hair.
Well, you can tell by her voice.
We're
the
gonna,
voice,
we're
too.
gonna get the apple one, and then we're gonna put the apple sake. We're gonna call it the
Oh,
DTC
man.
hookah double.
Call it the double sweet double double.
Yeah. Watch us get sued by that video game.
Yeah, right.
Probably. Anyway,
Sorry.
so that's my background. Basically, I learned from ground up. I've never been a bartender, which we do beer and wine, so unfortunately, that's what we got, which is fine. But you asked me to make a mojito, I'm just going to tell you to go fuck yourself and move on. But
He'll grab you sea salt
He will
wine.
not slice the words up either. That is exactly
no,
how it's going to come out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly PC, so people that come into the bar either like me or hate me, and that's life.
That's their fucking problem.
Yeah, pretty much. That's how I look at it. But anyway,
Yeah.
Black and white.
There you go.
Yep.
And I am Hanson Pierce. I take care of wholesaling. So if anybody has any needs to get the Chasing the Dragon, Deadwood Tobacco Company, Chasing the Dragon in their area, all they have to do is email me at info@deadwoodtobacco.com. Attention Pierce, and we can take care of all the particulars after that. I also do the podcast. Obviously, I have the sound equipment, kind of work hand in hand with Ethan on that. He's the visuals. I'm the sound.
The voice.
The voice. I don't always sound like this, but I know how to throw my voice. I used to be a DJ, a traveling DJ back in the day.
For porn.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Welcome to the stage.
This is Cherry.
Cherry. Ugh.
paprika's rolling out.
You don't want Cherry Bomb to go onto the stage. believe me.
This next up is apricot, followed up by dried tea.
I'm also the evidently
She
the
has 6 kids.
Oh Jesus! Also the resident OCD guy. So I've been kind of flying around trying to organize and get everything together. Kind of fell in as the office bitch for a little bit there as well. So just kind of the everyman. Bartender of 25 years. So that's kind of my forte. But obviously trying to get away from that a little bit. So it's nice to be in a beer and wine bar instead of slanging drinks.
It's a team process. Mm-hmm. You can't get hired unless the team hires you.
And then we're missing Grimy Grimes.
Yep.
So Grimy Grimes was Army vet, went through his time during that, and has been a bartender for...
No, he's probably been a bartender for 10 years. He was a butcher before that.
Yeah, so he's a butcher.
Yeah.
Bartender.
Butcher.
Now he's a fucking cigar
Now he's an
guy.
angry little fucking gnome
Yeah.
that takes care of people. Yeah.
Yeah,
With no smile.
Yes. He's the deadpan of our group that just looks at you like, what the fuck did you just, what?
Yeah.
He's got a full beard. He looks like an angry little gnome all the time.
See, to work at DTC, you end up having facial hair, a dog, and an average marriage of 20 years.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's
crazy.
Married to the game for 20 years. That's this guy.
Yeah.
Nah, you're married.
Yeah, you're married.
Yeah, I'm married to the process.
Yep.
Yeah.
So anyway, what
Your
is
smoke lounge and bar, and you guys mentioned that a couple times. That's something I found interesting. You guys have 70 varieties of bottled beer,
Yep.
6 local beers on tap. But the unique
That always changes.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
rotating tap.
It's a rotating
Okay.
tap, but for the most part, we always try to keep. There's a couple different local breweries we always keep in house that are either in. They might not be on tap, but they're physically in our bar at the time. So, yeah. There-
But yeah, we're gonna move locations here in January, and we'll double that beer selection.
Yep.
that the unique part though I found was that, like you mentioned, you're in the original Deadwood jail. Is that a fact?
That houses our beer.
So yeah, the beer cooler is the jail, and it was the quasi temporary jail until they built the county seat. But
Yeah.
that would have been if you go down there in the middle of summer, that would have been a motherfucker of a punishment to be in there overnight, especially hungover in that tight ass
Sweat box.
tight, sweaty. It's humid as shit down there. There's salt coming through from the ceiling because of the roads.
It floods.
Yeah, it floods a little bit every once in a while, 3-4 times a year. But yeah,
In the wintertime, it freezes like an ice rink.
yeah.
Yes.
Hey, what and where is Shin Kick Alley?
Where'd you hear that from?
Heard it from I think it might have been you in a previous episode. Caught my attention.
All right. We'll field that one to Bill.
Yeah.
The humidor is shaped as a P. So the leg of the P back in the day, when Fabian and I were there, when I was at Ash and he was at Drew Estate, our product was up in the front for the major event. So if you went down the P, we had this little banner put up, and that if you went past that, I told you that Shin Kick Alley, if you came back out, you were authorized to free kick to your shins, because nobody down that alley supported the store during the event. And I always wore boots. That's how it started, just as another little added-on feature Fabian and I did.
So basically, if you're rolling down, you come into our humidor. It's 2.5, 3 people deep when you first walk in.
Yep.
But then you go down what I call it the corridor or the alley. Once you go down the alley,
That's all there is.
You're fucked.
screwed. Yeah,
Because
it's nuts to butts the whole way.
There's no turnabout.
Right. And if I'm in the back talking to somebody about whatever cigar we have back there, and then I look around and a 300-pound heifer walks around the corner, I'm like, fuck, I cannot get out. And I can look through the glass because it's glass.
You're like a zoo
windows.
animal.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I can see people at the register waiting, and I'm like, well, hi, I'll be out eventually. This is how it's fucking going to work. Sorry. So we
like a dog trying to be adopted. You're just waving through the window.
Yeah,
right.
pretty
Yeah.
much.
You're just waiting until you can get by whoever. He's either going to back out or
Boobs McGee
step out of the side or figure something out so I can get
or
by.
Mr. Big Butt,
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
because his name ain't Seymour underneath the bleachers.
Right.
Bitch tits, Bob.
So, luckily, the new place we're going to will have a nice walk around with an island in the middle, so we can
There'll
actually
be room.
maneuver. That's the big thing. So, it's a big humidor. It's one of the biggest in South Dakota. I believe it is the biggest, I think.
Yeah, unless there's some privately owned one that we don't know about.
Yeah, but for the most part, I know we're pretty much the biggest one in South Dakota that has different brands and everything else. So it's a unique place, and it's entertaining to watch people come down there, or they'll email us and I can't get this or I can't get that, and why don't you have this? And it's like, well,
that's where these guys get books and education to read. If we don't have something, they know what
Right.
it is, and they can show 5 cigars that are equivalent. So we don't carry what most stores you would walk into, right? You'll see Macanudo, you'll see Romeo Reserve Real.
Diamond Crown.
We don't carry that.
Cohibas,
We could.
and Cristos, and blah blah blah.
Yeah, we could. It's very easy, but if you understand what that is, being Dominican and with the Connecticut Ecuador or a Cameroon on Dominican, and you carry Ashton or Aladino or anybody that has a product and you know what it is, you can educate that tourist that comes into your store. And once we do that, and they understand, because most of our smokers that come through our store do not smoke cigars, so it's important to educate them. And then once they do, they go home and they order again. And they might not buy Macanudo. They may.
Yeah.
But they could buy Ashton. They might buy Sealy, Connecticut. They could buy Foundations.
Tabernacle.
Yeah,
Tabernacle.
Wiseman.
Wiseman. Yeah, any of those.
There's so much out there that if you understand what the product is, then you can cross-educate the person and let them know they have options to pick from, and they'll be in the same car, the same wheelhouse, going down the same highway.
No. And it's kind of nice too, because it almost represents on, okay, we've got the, super popular, we've got Ashton, we've got, CLE, we've got this, that, and the other. But we also seems kind of boutique to people that haven't been in a humidor like ours before, so they can go in there and find sticks that they've never been able to find before, and then that's our job to walk them through and say, oh, okay, what did you like about that particular cigar that you've been asking about? Okay, well, let me walk you over here and get you a Tatuaje that has the same flavor profile or whatever.
Crown heads.
Whichever. Yeah. So it's a nice way to broaden the perspective of anybody that's coming into the humidor and be able to kind of push the envelope a little bit, but not that much, because they're still getting a good stick for a good price at a good place. But they might not be able to get their Cohiba Red Dot that day. And oh fucking well, you still get a good cigar, you still get a good environment, you still get a good atmosphere, you still get awesome people to talk to that work there. And yeah, that's just who we are.
And it's a tourist town with gambling.
And a tourist town with gambling, so how can you go wrong with that?
Right.
At least when you gamble with us, you're going to get a stick.
And free music.
Every Friday and Saturday night, Brandon Sprague Blues Band.
Dun dun. Get your T-shirt at DTC. The Brandon Sprague T-shirt.
Yeah,
that one.
We have one, maybe 2 left.
We've gone around the circle for 45 minutes. So Matt, what do we do?
Yeah, I've got a question for Matt.
There we go.
That's what I was.
So Matt, what's your history with cigars, and what got you to convert your shed to do a podcast about cigars, and what's the future vision?
What's your background?
For what you want to do.
Well, my professional background, I'm an IT fiber optic guy.
What the hell is
What
that?
the fuck? What?
He watches good porn.
Yeah,
Him and Brad could have like a 6-hour conversation.
they could. Yeah.
Cerebral.
Yes.
So I traveled with sporting events for a good 10 years, mostly with the PGA Tour, USGA, doing their IT, their Wi-Fi, and all that stuff. And then I migrated here to Illinois, met my wife, and she and her dad, well, actually, most of her family are big into cigars. And so where I went from smoking on special occasions and weddings and,
To getting schooled.
I started smoking more when going down to their, the in-laws' house and stuff like that. And I didn't want to just smoke something and not know anything about it. So I started researching and getting into them and learning more about different companies and the different tobacco leaves and all that stuff. And so, in turn, had me starting to smoke more and doing more research, if you would. And then the podcast spun off with, casually smoking cigars on the weekends. And then, like I mentioned, reaching out to different companies and then having them reach back. And so now I'm even more interested and more intrigued to hear about different companies and how they operate, where their factories are, and things of that nature. So, yeah, the shed is coming up pretty well. I think this is episode 16 for me.
Right on.
So
we're right around the same.
New.
Yeah.
Relatively new. And I got guests lined up until March at this point.
That's cool.
So a couple that are going to be here in the shed, and then a couple that'll be remote.
Very nice.
It's bi-weekly, so it's just a nice little hobby, if you would, for me.
You should give him a shed shot glass for coming to the shed.
Ooh.
Well, no, you know what I did was a couple episodes ago, I have a good friend that is local. He makes hot sauce, and I'm also a pepper fanatic, where I grow Trinidad scorpions and reapers and ghosts in my backyard. And he
My ass
took
would be on fire.
cigars, fermented cigars and bourbon, and made me a hot sauce with those ingredients infused inside this hot sauce. So I will be shipping a couple bottles out to you guys, but it's the Cigar Social Podcast hot sauce.
Nice.
Oh, there we go.
Very nice. So tell the truth, though. Tell me one thing. Did you buy all the sound equipment, the camera, the everything, just so you could get the hell out of the house and be able to smoke cigars and be like, sorry, I got podcast tonight, babe. I'll not be around for an hour or two.
He's got podcast education every night.
Wait, does she watch this? You can lie if you need to.
I don't know, to be honest with you.
That's a really safe stance to take, man. It's a very safe stance.
Really sure, actually, but I think that
She's watching murder porn.
Yeah.
Snap.
I can go out and have a cigar, and I don't really need the podcast to do so. We have that really good relationship, so and then sometimes she'll come out and join me out on the back patio. But it's the podcast was more of just learning more, discussing more, and kind of hearing what other companies, especially when you get into like the breweries and the distilleries and things of that nature, things I've never even heard of or knew about, I start to kind of get more of appreciation for how long the aging process for cigars, or how many hands that a cigar actually touches before it even gets in the box. So it's
They're all washed.
You gain an appreciation.
Oh, for sure. Like, obviously, being a tech guy, was this kind of something that was familiar to you, or did it take you a while to get used to the headphones and the microphone and all that other shit, or was it just kind of something that's like natural and just, hey man, I'm just going to jump on here and I'm going to talk about, these two passions of mine, and I'm going to, forge forward?
I think as being somewhat of a nerd, this kind of came somewhat natural.
You're an IT guy, dude. Sorry, you're a nerd.
No.
Just throwing that out there.
I mean, I'm more internet-based, more Wi-Fi, more fiber optics, more, more of that nature. But everything's plug and pray at one point or another, right? So you just kind of plug things in and hope it works. And
I mean, as we've proved over the last couple of weeks. Yeah.
Stash, does he erase his web browser?
Yeah, yeah, I'm pretty sure he probably does.
Nah,
he's an IT guy.
He hides the
he knows
computer.
how to get rid of that shit. Delete. Erase history.
Yeah, there you go.
He bleaches it.
Yes.
All right, makes sense.
Okay.
Where are we
based
running?
about your location, I know you mentioned that there was a new location being built.
Not being
Is that
a
also-
build out, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Is that also going to be just beer and wine, or
Yep.
is that the anti-spirits thing, like a town thing?
well, I'll cover this one.
Yes.
So, Deadwood's a unique place because we are a tourist town, right? So we have multiple casinos that can spend millions and millions of dollars to procure such licenses. So, a lot of the places, the rule here is 60% has to be food before you can put in for a liquor license. Well, the problem with us is we smoke, so you cannot do food in a place you smoke at. So we are one of the only places in Deadwood that you can physically smoke a cigar, have beer and wine, and listen to blues music and so on and so forth. But you're not allowed to do the liquor because we don't have the food. So it's sort of a built-in, what would they call a safety, basically, because we do have multiple events throughout the year. I mean, every month we have 2 to 3 events going on, and a lot of them are pub crawls / whiskey tasting / wine tasting / this and that
/ concert
/ concert / whatever you want to put in there, insert your thing. And it would, as small as our little town is, you're looking at 1,200
you don't miss
roughly.
You don't miss it.
Yeah, so by the time you hit us or some other place, you've already had your 4 or 5 shots, you've had this and that, you've bounced around the bars, and you can come in here, you can get a good cigar, we will direct you in the right direction with that cigar, and then we pair you up with a beer or wine that will physically match the cigar you have. So we've had to modify a little bit because most people always think cigars and a good scotch or a good bourbon. But we can shift it over to a beer and make it work just as well. And that's part of what that is. There's only so many licenses to go out because they didn't want everybody and their brother to have a liquor license because we are a tourist town and we get a lot of these pub crawls and stuff like that. So it comes back to sort of bite you in the butt because everybody by bar 4, they're so trashed you can't serve them and blah, blah, blah.
Plus we have the only live consistent entertainment.
Right. So we are one that does one of the consistent entertainments every weekend. So it's there. And we do fine without it. Preferably, yes. Would it
There'd be
nice?
more fights.
Yeah. You're dealing with more. You got to remember, we got everything from cowboys, rodeos, ranchers,
1%ers,
bikers,
1%ers, bikers, white collar. We're not like your average cigar bar where you have the, shirt, tie, crystal ashtrays, leather couches.
We have a leather couch.
We have one, yes, but we're not that.
No.
We're so diverse in our clientele that we get. I mean, 60 to 75% of the people we get to come in, they smell the smoke, they hear the music, they walk down the steps, and they're like, "Oh shit, you can smoke in here."
Yep.
And
I want a cigar.
We're off and running. So that's how almost 75% of our business comes from, is the local weekend people that have not been out there, that saw our name, came downstairs because it looks that speakeasy-ish sort of way.
Yep.
And that's where we go with that. So it's, unfortunately, liquor license is one of those harder things to get here in Deadwood, and there's only so many to go out, and they've already been, distributed throughout the town. And as much as we'd like to have it, that's just not an option now. So we're gonna work the other avenues we can, because when you hit a wall, it's either you drop dead and stop and quit, or you find other alternatives to make it work better in your favor.
And especially in this town, it's a real draw to be able to go somewhere, be able to have a smoke, have a beer, have a wine, and not be inundated with all the fucking bells and whistles of all those machines. So we do not have any machines. There's no gambling in our spot. There's no fights or games on the TV. It's a place where you can actually sit down, look across the bar to somebody eye to eye and have a conversation, because that's what it's about. It's about community and being able to sit down and relax with your cigar, with your wine, and be able to talk, whatever talk you want to talk with the person next to you.
Liberals and conservatives actually talking out normal conversation without killing themselves. Or each other.
No. So it's kind of a unique thing too, to be able to not only describe the cigars to people and help them choose that, but when they walk up to the bar, also help them pair that cigar with a wine or a beer that's going to bring out, this flavor, that flavor. You're going to get a little bit of caramelization or a little bit of cocoa powder or yada, yada, yada. But that's kind of what our speciality is there. So it's a multifaceted thing. And just because it's a small shop, it's still a diamond in the rough. There's been people that have been there 10 times and never seen us, walk down the stairs, and why the fuck didn't I find this, 4 years ago when I was here. But it's the diamond in the rough, man. You come over and you see us, you find us, you always come back and say hi, because it's just that kind of a spot.
If you don't know, you don't need to know. But if you know, you know.
You know.
What would you say Deadwood's most popular cigar is?
Oh, man.
Come on, that's an easy one.
Hit it.
Sweet Jane.
Yeah.
So we're still known for the Sweet Jane, so a lot of people seek us out. They're nationwide right now, so you can literally get them most anywhere in the United States. But they know that we started that there years ago, so they want to go to the originator and get the cigar from the place that it started. So
Matt, they think we roll it there.
they do.
Trust me. I field just on a Friday, Saturday, and half a Sunday. I probably field, good Lord, I don't know, 5 to 10 calls a weekend of, well, I got this cigar and, you know, it's really good and you don't have them on, when are you guys going to roll more? And it's like, all right, we live in South Dakota, so we're not really congruent for growing tobacco, one. And two, the Nicaraguan, Honduras, and Dominican Republic rollers, come wintertime, they break out of our handcuffs and they run out of the basement.
Yeah.
We can't hold
We
them
can't
there.
keep
It's
them all year
We can't
round.
keep them there.
Yeah.
So they're not made for
Cold
weather. So,
Well, and most people that order online also think that we're a warehouse. When they walk in, they're baffled by the fact that
Yeah.
we're 1,800 square feet and
Yeah.
half of that is a humidor. You know what I
Right.
mean?
And it's 6 people running the show. That's
Yeah.
it.
So it was a very good idea when it was started, and it's continuing on. It's just, it's like the people that talk about it and think we make them, and you know, we've had emails, you know, well, I got this one cigar and it wasn't that great, and I'm like, well, I call them up, I'm like, where did you get it from, sir? Oh, Cigar Bed. I'm like, well, all right. One, we don't make it. Drew Estate makes it physically in Nicaragua, so you know, not.
How was it stored?
Yeah, how was it stored? Did you keep it on the dash of your truck for 2 months and then somebody put it on a cigar bed and sold it because they're like, well, this thing's effed and I'm going to throw it down the road?
Yep.
Or did you do this or that, or how'd you keep it? Cigars is like a good whiskey or a good bourbon, right? You got to know how to store it, right? Bourbons can sit for years and years and years and be fine. Cigars can sit for years and years and years and be fine, but they have to be in a proper thing. It's like a wine bottle. You don't ever leave it standing up on end forever because the cork dries out and then it gets skunked, basically. A beer.
Corked.
Yes.
Yeah, corked.
Corked. You can't do that with a beer. It will skunk. If you lay a beer on its side, the cap will physically disintegrate and actually destroy the beer long before us. So they want to be standing up where a wine bottle wants to be on its side. Cigars have a certain proper humidity / temperature they like to be in, and that's it. You know, everybody's like, well, if I put them in the freezer, and I'm like, no,
Oh,
that's
God.
the worst thing you can do. Don't do that. This is sort of I'm going on my cigar
Yeah.
do's and don'ts kick, but you know, and
That's
you know, it's not, it's simple teaching. I mean, I'm like, go buy a damn $2 Tupperware container and put a Bovita pack in it and put your cigars in it and seal it. You're fine. You know.
yep.
But it's like anything else, you know. Do you have a scotch with, like my wife likes to do, take really high-end whiskeys, bourbons, and scotches and mix them with Coke because she can't stand the straight taste of it, but she'll mix it with Coke. It doesn't matter what it is, and it could be, you know,
stick.
a $90, $100 bottle of something, and she's going to mix it with Coke. And I'm like, what the F are you doing? No. Just stop. You're disgracing the whole thing. Just go away.
But the bottle disappears.
Yes, but the bottle will disappear.
Still does the trick.
Yeah. But anyway.
I wonder what the Japanese whiskey would do to her.
Ooh. I don't know. Might have to try that.
I would suggest finding it and giving it a whirl, especially with this cigar. It's a great pair.
Well, the problem is Consuela does not like anything plain. So if it has any kind of burn or any kind of sting, whatever, she's not going to do it. It's going to mix with Coke or sparkling water.
She only likes the spice with her men. Man.
Yeah. Man. The one man.
The one man.
Yes.
As Ohio State says, the man.
The
Yes.
man.
But yeah, it would be interesting to see what she would do with that. But
Yeah.
we'll have to maybe give it a shot.
There you go.
There you go.
You got any more questions for us, Matt?
Well, I know we're getting close to time. I just wanted to see what was coming up for Deadwood. Can you let us in on anything new in the works or anything to be excited for?
So the new shop is probably the most exciting thing for all of us. A lot of people comment that it's not going to have the same ambiance. It's not going to have the same this. It's not going to have the same that. And honestly, until I worked there, I didn't realize what, the basement really entailed. But once you get in there and you walk in on a day that it's 10 degrees outside, and you look at the thermostat and it's only 42 degrees inside, and you're wearing a parka for a straight 2 fucking weeks, that's when you kind of start realizing like, oh, okay, all right. So we get to go to a building with heat. Oh, that's awesome. With air conditioning. Oh, fucking even better. With an air filtration system.
Bathroom.
Hell yeah.
Yep.
A bathroom.
That'd
Sweet.
be nice.
It doesn't flood 4 times a year. Bonus. So it's what I like to tell people is it doesn't matter what they think it's going to be, because everybody thinks that you're just going to take something and ruin it. But it's the same 6 dudes that really love cigars. They really love their job. They really are, entranced by this whole thing, that are going to be there as well. So the ambiance is the crew, in my mind anyways.
Now, is this going to be a move? Or
Yes.
is this going to be a new addition?
A move.
No,
move.
a complete
A
move.
Okay, so you're leaving
Where we're at.
the old grounds.
Yep.
So part of this is we're in a basement, right? No bathroom. So the bathroom's upstairs. The ventilation is what I would say subpar shit at best.
Yeah.
We have a floor dryer that physically removes the smoke from the building. So, it's we're working on, we've grown so much that so many people are in there on the weekends and during the week that it's like LA. I just put it as, look at LA on a good summer day in like August. You can't see across the town. Well, you can't see across 100 and whatever the fuck square feet. We're 900 square feet we are.
Yeah.
So this will have proper ventilation. We're going to be on the street level, but we're still in a historic building. So we've just moved down the road a bit.
But in the
then-
biggest, tallest building.
Yep, in the biggest, tallest building in Deadwood. And furthermore, I can get vets into the store because we are a big vet. We attract veterans of all types. And when they're in a wheelchair and we got to carry them down the we'll get you down here, buddy.
Oh, yeah,
but
we'll get 'em down.
You're not going to like it.
Yeah.
But we're going to carry your ass down. It might be a little weird, but we're going to get you down there. And it's going to be bathrooms. We have an ADA bathroom. We're going to have our normal men's and women's bathroom because we don't play that other game that whatever other states want to play. But anyway, so, it's going to give us a lot more, 3 times the seating, 4 times the seating almost. So I did a count the other week, and right now if I have every chair taken up, including the little wooden one in the back, the stool, we're looking at 38 seats total. That's people can sit on a weekend. Wow. This new place, we can seat 30 plus at the bar by itself.
Yeah.
So it's going to keep the same vibe. We're going to keep the same Edison bulbs, the same groove we have going. It's just going to be a bigger spot. And yes, like everything else, there's going to be some people that are pissed that it isn't a simple little speakeasy down in the dungeon, but we had to expand. We didn't have a choice. We couldn't get any more room, and it was time to move.
Yep.
And we made the move.
There's no room for shipping.
Yeah,
Right.
There's no room for shipping. There's no room for wholesaling. We don't have a whole lot of storage area to keep back stock.
Right.
Just problems that you run into when your business is growing.
Consuela does her shipping on the counter in the morning, on the same counter that people are trying to look at for lighter fluid, cutters, lighters, and so on and so forth. She's physically doing her shipping there. So if there's, it's a very tight spot, and we're finally moving to a bigger space where we can get more room to sort of breathe as we need to do, and everybody can do their job properly.
Yep. And not only that, we have a ton of what I call courtesy coffers that come through.
Yes.
So they'll go in and make sure that everybody knows that they're with this awesome look on their face. The air filtration system that we have in the new, or that we're going to have in the new spot, actually is going to be phenomenal. So some of those people that have a problem with, sensitivities to smoke or whatever, will actually be able to come in there and enjoy the music. We have a lot of people that want to come in there and listen to the band, but don't feel that they are, safe in that environment or whatever. So that's going to be an awesome thing as well, to be able to get more people in there that would want to come in there if it had a little less, smoke
density.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. And while you're on that subject, you mean the ones that I usually tell fucking, they come in coughing, they pull their t-shirt over their nose.
Yes.
I'm like, well, there's 3 fucking exits. There's one there, one there, and one in the back. And they look at me like I'm an asshole, and I'm like, well, I don't walk into a bowling alley going, well, geez, it smells like sweat socks.
It smells like sweat socks,
sweaty balls, pin oil, and there's noise of pins falling. Why am I fucking here? It's like, well, you went there for a reason.
Exactly.
So shut the hell up.
Right.
Anyway, that's our PC edition of what we do at Deadwood Tobacco.
This is basically what we do at the counter every Friday and Saturday night when we're busy, is me and Stash just rip people apart, and they love it. So
they keep coming back, so it's good.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, to finish up, before I go pee my pants,
where can they find your podcast there, Matt?
Everywhere. Every platform, Amazon, Google, Spotify, iTunes, blah, 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 blah. And then the video.
I haven't looked at
one up yet. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, blah, 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 blah.
.com, yeah.
And then
check that one.
Go to,
that's
YouTube
the new Japanese one.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, man.
No, that's fine. Video content is on YouTube. Like I said, I only post there when I do remote calls or when I have video, but anything that's in the shed is audio only at this time. So that'll be specifically on a podcast platform.
Excellent. And then how many, you said 2 times a week or every 2 weeks?
Every 2 weeks.
Okay.
Every 2 weeks, bi-weekly, yeah.
Do you set it out on a certain day or anything? Let the people know where they can find it or when they can find it?
Right now, it's set as every 2 weeks. Sometimes it changes. I know I got the holidays coming up, so I'll be probably missing a week or two down Thanksgiving and Christmas time and all that stuff. But look for it. We post on social media. I'm not big in social media.
Yeah, welcome to the group.
I have 0 social media, so I'm kind of okay with that.
Yep.
But the podcast has an Instagram. My wife will post up when the new episodes are available. So
Excellent.
Check it out.
Right on. And go ahead.
So once again, you are pairing the Japanese whiskey with
Habiki.
with the midnight oil.
With the midnight oil.
Okay.
And phenomenal pair, actually. It's a really good. Flavor notes from both are almost identical. It's really weird, actually. Usually you get a good pair, and you're like, well, this is a good cigar and a beer or a good whiskey or whatever, and it just marries well. But this is almost the flavor never ends with the fried, the dried fruit and the apricot, and check it out. I suggest it.
Hell yeah.
All right.
Right on. Well, thank you for reaching out to us and doing this podcast together. I know that we've had a hell of a lot of technical difficulties, and maybe we've done more sign language than talking before this actually happened, just because there was no sound feed on the back and forth when Ethan was figuring this out. On our side, thank you for tuning in to Deadwood Tobacco Company Blow and Smoke Podcast. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Etsy, all kinds of different places. Make sure that
What the fuck?
Etsy, Pinterest.
Pinterest.
What the hell are you selling on Etsy? You buy on Etsy.
That's all right. We're all good. Fuck it. This is why I have to have a pre-recorded one. God damn it. Make sure that if you're looking for the Deadwood Tobacco Company Chasing the Dragon, you can go to www.deadwoodtobacco.com. Order those up. Consuela would be happy to box those up and get those sent out as soon as she can. Make sure that you're giving a call to 605-722-1510. If you have any questions about flavor profiles or you just want to reach out and breathe heavy into the phone for Consuela, that would be perfect as well. You can find us on all the major streaming platforms as well. You can go on Apple or Google or Amazon or all of the above. Make sure you're tuning in to YouTube or Podbean, our parent company or our streaming company. And that will do it for us. Matt, thank you so much for coming on. Oh, God, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are you going to do?
He's going somewhere.
Thank you so much for coming on, reaching out, and making this happen. It was a pleasure being able to talk to you over the lines. And thanks, man.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
And don't call me about the fucking weather, because it's fucking always Deadwood.
Yep.
Just get over it.
It's
Anyway.
Deadwood.
Have a great night, guys. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you
You've
very
been
much,
awesome.
man.